It's a game day, Caps fans. That's right. We're going to talk about who the Caps are playing on this Thursday night. Also, the updated schedule for the National Hockey League. Yeah, that all-star break that we all thought we were going to have.
You're Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Capitals. I am your host, as always, the insider to the insiders, Tyler Kuehl, here on this Thursday edition of Locked On Caps, where we are going to talk about a lot today because there's actually some news with the Washington Capitals. 3 bits of news, which makes this a very easy show to plan. 1, the Caps are taking on the Boston Bruins in a very anticipated game, given the way the last game went between these two teams. And they're going to be doing without one more defenseman because Dmitry Orlov got into some trouble, and I kind of got some heat for the play that happened. So we'll talk about that. And also, updated National Hockey League schedule. That is right. The impending games that we were going to see in February, well, it's been released, and going to be busy. Remember when we all thought, maybe the Caps would play 3 or 4 games or whatever it was. There's no break, kids. Yeah, that Olympic break that we all thought we were going to see just went withering away like a piece of toilet paper on a blustery day in the 100-acre wood. First of all, before we get in all nuts and bolts of today's episode, thank you all very much for watching and listening to this episode of Locked On Capitals every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, what are we going to do? So what are we going to go first? Let's get into the news of who's going to be missing from the lineup on Thursday. Now, number 1, John Carlson, still out due to COVID protocol. Not good at all. However, this may change following the All-Star break because if you guys remember earlier this week, the NHL making the announcement that they're not going to test asymptomatic players following the All-Star break. Now, this obviously will change in regards to how the cross-border travel between the United States and Canada and vice versa. However, going from town to town, teams will not have to test if they do not feel symptoms. Now, that could get a little funny because some players may say they're fine, they're not sick at all. That is something we're just going to kind of have to wait and observe once we get to that point. Now, obviously, Carlson out, but also one of the other top defensemen for the Capitals will be out of the lineup. Dmitry Orlov has been suspended 2 games for the hit on Nikolai Ehlers in the win against the Winnipeg Jets on Tuesday. Now, I know what I said on Locked On Caps after the game, but I said on the Wednesday edition here, and I said that the hit didn't look egregious. Now, watching it back after the ruling, I do see what the NHL is saying here. He did turn his knee open to kind of, extend it out a little bit, his left knee at least, hitting Ehlers. And watching it back, like I said, it was not the most egregious knee I've ever seen playing hockey. Heck, I've covered first of all, I covered the ECHL. There's some shots that you're not ready for. Also, I played in the Federal Hockey League, which is, it's pretty much, gridiron gang except for hockey. So I don't know what you want to call it. Icebox Warriors. I don't know. It was there were some tough games in that league that I was a part of. So it's to see that hit and see it was a suspension. First of all, I'm glad it's supplemental discipline. The league's actually doing something, which is great. And for all those, for people that know Tom Wilson pretty well, this could have been a lot worse in the fact that, let's just say the Caps have gotten away with one a time or two with number 43. This one, is kind of something that is a call that I look at and say, okay, 2 games, sure. It's not abysmal. It's not horrifying. It's, the problem is that the league knows that Nikolai Ehlers is going to miss time because of this hit. The hit on the knee, we don't know exactly how long. Dave Lowry, we talked about it after the game. In the Wednesday edition of Locked On Caps, that Nikolai Ehlers is going to miss at least 1 game, which is certainly, something that is, it's a bummer because I think he's a really good player, first of all. A lot of people in Toronto are big fans of Nikolai Ehlers. They think they were going to get him over William Nylander. That did not happen, but you know what? There are worse guys to miss out on than William Nylander. But that's my point, though. Nikolai Ehlers is a big part of the Winnipeg Jets, so that's why I say him being out of the lineup is probably a reason why that the league said, you know what, maybe we should provide some supplemental discipline because of this. So it's a bang, like I said, it's a bang bang play. You can see why something like this is called, why something like this is a suspendable hit. And now the Caps are gonna have to figure it out. Who is gonna get called up, who is gonna have to play these minutes now, because right now I'm looking at this lineup here, and you're looking to yourself and saying, well, you may have to see Martin Fehervary step up and play some big minutes. You're gonna have to see, who is really gonna play tougher. Now, as of right now, Connor Sheary and John Carlson are the only one under COVID protocols, according to Samantha Pella from the Washington Post. I am interested to see what the move is. So far, we haven't heard any calls from the Hershey Bears as of yet. The only one notable is Axel Janssen-Falby getting called up. That could have something in relation to do with Connor Sheary being out due to COVID protocol for the next couple of games. Because the Washington Capitals now, we don't have those nice 2 weeks off like we did. It seemed like, or those week-long breaks we've had the last couple of weeks. This is now a slowly turn back into seeing the Caps have to, play some games back-to-back or in some days off, or only one day off in between games. So we're going to really see what this team's really made out of. Like I said, you're going to have to see Martin Fehervary. Nick Jensen, I don't know if he's going to get called up to the top, the top pair because of it. I know he did play some top pairing minutes on Tuesday. This is an opportunity for Michael Kempney to probably get back into the lineup. Trevor Van Riem's I gave him the goat horns for that, giving up that tying goal, the Pierre Dubois goal, because he was sitting right on top of the slot, not really covering the guy back door. So this is an opportunity for him to maybe get some redemption, have to play some bigger minutes. At least we're not the Tampa Bay Lightning. I had to play with 4D against the LA Kings. Then again, Victor Hedman, I think, did just fine in that game. So yeah, this is going to be a tough game for the defense. And I think, we don't know who is going to get the start. All we know from the Boston Bruins side of things, which we'll discuss in a minute, Linus Ullmark is being pegged as the starting goaltender from what we've heard. I don't know if that's going to affect the decision on who Laviolette starts. Vanacek, of course, has played 2 of the last 3 games now, has won back-to-back games as well. That, like I said, we'll get to that point when we get there. Defensively, though, this is going to be a tough game for the Caps because you're missing your top 2 defensemen. Yes, you have competent defensemen back there still, even without those 2 guys out, but you don't have that number 1 defenseman out there. And a team like the Bruins right now, they're going to be hungry, and they have that offense that still is firing all cylinders. They have not just one perfection line, they have 2 lines that are pretty darn good, with David Pasternak getting pulled off that line, of course. So I'm a little concerned, but it'll be important now because the Caps, like we mentioned, they're going to be missing Orlov for tomorrow, as well as their game against pull up my schedule here, the Ottawa Senators on Saturday. And I know people are laughing when I say, oh, we got to be careful for that. Well, don't forget, the Ottawa Senators just came back and, roared back and beat up the Edmonton Oilers, which, again, I know it's not a big thing right now because a lot of teams are doing it, but you get my drift. The Ottawa Senators can score goals. So needing all hands on deck, and there's going to be some names that we didn't typically need to step up at times for the Capitals defense. They're going to have to do it in the game against the Bruins on Thursday night. So with that, we'll break down the matchup between the Bruins and the Caps here in just a moment. But guys, I got to remind you that BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the number 1 spot for all the sports wagering action for 2022. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today. Receive the 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code LOCKEDON to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, do not wait. Take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Notice I didn't mix hockey and boxing that time, eh? So the Boston Bruins, they are coming off a very tough game. And, it's hard to say, oh, this team played horrible against the Carolina Hurricanes because, well, they did. But it's a bummer because the way the game ended, because of how the night started. Of course, the team raising Willie O'Ree's number up to the rafters at TD Garden, retiring it forever. And well-deserved, of course, as well for number 22, Willie O'Ree. Bummer, of course, he couldn't be there. Obviously, COVID and whatnot. But certainly I think when he comes back to Boston the next time, I think there's going to be a well-deserved round of applause and standing ovation for that man for what he's done for the game. But on the ice, though, the Bruins did not look like the spirited Willie O'Ree. They got pummeled badly. 7-1, they lost to the Carolina Hurricanes, and that's been a rare thing, too. It's not like these Bruins get beat up badly that often. In fact, going back to their schedule here, the last time they lost by multi-goals or by a multi-goal margin here, they lost to the Islanders back on the 16th of December, 3-1. And that was a spell where they lost back-to-back games to both Vegas and the Islanders. And, this is I don't want to say a revamped team, but, before that game against the Hurricanes, they were playing good hockey. They pulled out a win against a very good Nashville Predators team in overtime. They beat the Flyers. They handed one to the Canadiens. They smacked around the Caps, of course. We all remember that game and how that one went. They held on. I don't say they handled the Lightning, but they played really good against Tampa in Tampa as well and had a close game against Minnesota. Like, this team has been playing really good over the last stretch here. And I know we talked about the last time these two teams met, but you cannot allow this team to get things going offensively. As good as the Caps started in that game, they just let off the gas. They thought, all right, 2-0 lead. Connor Sheary's our hero tonight. Let's just bunker down. Let's just handle this one the rest of the way. The Bruins aren't going to come back and score at all. They're not going to come back to win this game. 7 unanswered goals or 6 unanswered, whatever it was. It was not pretty by any stretch of the imagination. So right now, though, looking at the standings, they are 4th in the Atlantic Division. They still hold the second wild card spot as they have been jumped now by the red-hot Pittsburgh Penguins. 46 points puts them in the second wild card spot, 4th in the Atlantic Division with 46 points. In 36 games, they're 22-12-2, 8 of their last 10 games. And like I said, the only reason why is because they lost to the Carolina Hurricanes on Tuesday. This team has it going for them right now. And we always mention the perfection line. Pierre Laviolette, of course, laughed at him, but it's no longer the perfection line. No. David Pasternak's been bumped off that line. The line that we're seeing right now, the lines, plural, Patrice Bergeron, and along with Brad Marchand, who somehow did not get elected to the All-Star game. I'm still kind of befuddled by all that because, you would think with a guy that kind of talent and whatnot, that he would, you think he would have an opportunity to go there, if I'm not mistaken, the All-Star man. And yeah, Steven Stamkos was from the Atlantic Division, and crying shame because Marchand, I think, is one of the best players in the league this year, despite as much of a pest as he is. He's pretty darn good. And so, but they have that, they have him and Craig Smith, who I thought, how is he going to step up playing in a top line role? I've always known he's a good player. From his time in Nashville as well. He's a good skilled player. He can score. He can create plays. He's a good playmaker as well. But he certainly fit in with that position. Now, obviously, Tuesday's this outlier here. But then you think, what's happened to David Pasternak? Well, he's certainly helped Taylor Hall's production over the last little bit. Those two have just seemingly found each other. And that's created a very competent second line because Bruce Cassidy, despite the fact he hasn't won a cup in his career, despite the fact that he coached Jaromir Jagr out of the Washington Capitals organization back in the early 2000s, he knows better than that you can't have only one line scoring. And especially this way the season started for the Boston Bruins, when it seemed like despite the fact that Marchand and Bergeron and Pasternak were putting points up and scoring, they weren't getting enough from their bottom 3 lines. So they needed some way to get a spark going. He spreads them out a little bit, and you know what? They're playing great. There's no perfection line, sure, but there's 2 pretty darn good lines in that lineup now. And we talk about missing Orlov and John Carlson for this Caps team. That's going to be a very tough matchup in the defensive zone for Washington. So we're looking at a possible case here where the Caps are going to have to score their way out of this one, whether it be Vanacek or Samsonov in goal. You're going to have to see a better performance out of the Capitals and more complete performance, knowing that they're going up against a deeper scoring Boston Bruins team. Here is the kicker in all this, though, if you ask me, and that's the fact that Linus Ullmark, like I said, is going to be the starting goaltender. Now, Jeremy Swayman was going to be the odd man out when Tuukka Rask became available to play for the Bruins, and I think he's been good. I don't think he's been awful. It's not like it's hard for a guy to come back after missing all that time. Wasn't able to have any conditioning stints down in Providence. So he had to find a way to get back into the swing of things. And I thought like I said, I think he's played all right in his first couple games. But Linus Allmark, now granted, this is all speculation. This could easily change in the morning. Someone could wake up and say, you know what, let's play Rask instead. Even though that game went a little rough on Tuesday night. I believe that if Linus Allmark is the goaltender, this is a time for the Capitals to take advantage, right? Like, and I said this going into last weekend. You're playing a bad Islanders team. You got to win that one. You're taking on a Canucks team that is hot right now, but is on the second half of a back-to-back, a part of that was pretty much an abysmal East Coast trip for, at one point, one of the hottest teams in the league. So I said, you got to take advantage of these opportunities. Well, the Caps half did that last weekend. So now you're taking on a Boston Bruins team, battered around on Tuesday, starting their now backup goaltender, or 1B. I don't know what you want to call it. I feel like you want Tuukka Rask to be your number one. You're taking on Allmark, who has been, dare I say, lackadaisical in terms of his production. I don't think he's nearly been as good as maybe what the Bruins were expecting out of him at the beginning of the season. So offensively, this is a chance where if you're going to go goal for goal or shot for shot with the Bruins, this is the opportunity because of the guy that's playing in net. So if you're the Capitals, who do you play in your end? Well, Vanacek, of course, picks up the shutout against the Islanders, 23 saves, albeit. Samsonov, I don't think he played bad against the Canucks. It's just a rough second period where all of a sudden the Canucks power play scored on their only 2 chances of the game. Do you give Samsonov a shot here in a game that you feel like you have to win? And, you give the other goalie the lesser start against the Senators on Saturday. Even though this is not a back-to-back scenario, this is just 2 games separated out by a day. So, you're going to need to find a goaltender that's going to make more saves than the other guy. And I know that's usually how games work. We just need to find a way to score more goals or keep more pucks out of the net than the other team. Like it seems simple enough. That said, I'd be okay with either goalie going in net. I think Samsonov knows he can play better. I think he wants to get a redemption start against the Bruins, of course, because that game, that Monday night game, did not go so well. Oh, pardon me, Zach Vucali. Vanacek probably wants a better shot at the Bruins because, unfortunately, Zach Vucali kind of got hung out to dry because the Caps played miserable in that Monday night. So, yeah, there needs to be a more complete performance because, like I said, we saw that. I was recording Lockdown NHL during the time of that game with Mike DiStefano, and we were saying to ourselves, all right, well, Caps are up 2-0. Vucali's playing all right. And then the Boston Bruins with Brad Marchand and that perfection line storming back and coming back and kicking the crap out of him. So, yeah, there would be some cause for concern with another letdown against the Bruins because you can't take this team lightly. You can't take shifts off against them. And if you get a lead, build it. Go up by 4 or 5. Who cares? You don't want to totally embarrass them, but you need to find ways to put teams away, put good teams away. And the Bruins, I think we all can pretty agree on this one, are a pretty good team. So once again, that's going to be an interesting and fun game to watch. Puck drop on that one, 7 o'clock at the TD Garden in Boston, right off the railway or the people mover, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I see the little thing with like the train that goes by it, whatever. So, like I said, should be a dandy of a game. All we know is that Allmark's probably getting the start for the Bruins. No inclination on who is starting net for the Caps at the time of this recording. So now, the other news that came out on Wednesday, that was the fact that the NHL has released its updated schedule with the rescheduled games and postponed games from earlier last year or late last year going to be put into February. Now, there were a couple, obviously, that were added to the end of the originally scheduled regular season at the end of April, but a lot of games are going to be made up in February during the original Olympic break. And I'm kind of excited to see how that was going to work. I thought maybe the Caps would play 4 or 5 games, and, well, we just kind of got about a bit right here. This was released from Tarek El-Bashir. So the Caps don't really have much of a break. That's the kicker here in all this, because the Caps, have they updated on the website yet? Yes, they have actually. They updated on the actual NHL.com site, because originally the Caps were going to play February 2nd against the Edmonton Oilers. That was going to be it until they played the New York Rangers, I believe, on the 24th. I think that was the last one. Yes, that was going to be the last or the first game following the break, the All-Star and Olympic break. The All-Star game, of course, coming up here in the next week and a half, week and some days, 2 weeks, I think it is actually. So there was going to be certainly some games that are going to be added in. And here's the ones that we know for the Caps right now. The Columbus Blue Jackets, that game was supposed to happen on, originally scheduled for April 28th, has been moved back to February 8th. We'll get to why that game was moved here as we go down this list. Washington at Montreal, originally scheduled for January 4th because the Canadiens thought, you know what, we got to try to find a way to get more home games here. That's moved to February 10th. Now that might be played in front of no fans because things right now in Ontario and Canada, for that matter, have not really changed a whole lot. I know Alberta is still at about 50%, both Calgary and Edmonton. Ontario and Quebec, though, have not really made many moves to having fans at their home games, which would impact, obviously, the Maple Leafs, Senators, and Canadiens. Like I said, that'll be a February 10th game. The Ottawa Senators at Washington, which was really supposed to be played 2 days after Christmas. That game was moved now to February 13th. That was, of course, the 27th, which was the original return date following the holiday pause. Obviously, that got pushed back an extra day. February 13th, like I said on that one. In Nashville, the Caps will be. That game was supposed to be played on April 2nd. That'll be now February 15th because obviously I think the Caps want a few more days off because April 2nd might be some more games rescheduled around that time. So like I said, February 15th for that one. The Caps are supposed to play the Flyers, of course, December 21st, which was going to be the last game prior to the holiday pause. That's now moved to February 17th. And the New York Islanders and Washington Caps, that was the Wednesday game, I think, before Christmas. That game was, Thursday. The originally scheduled last game before the Christmas pause, before COVID decided to force the NHL to force the hand in there. That's now moved to April 28th, which is, well, like I said, the original date of the Columbus Blue Jackets game. Now, those were games that were added. I think that makes 82. I'm not 100% certain at this time. Obviously, games can still change. Obviously, with the new testing that the league is going to implement after the All-Star break, this is supposed to limit the number of postponed games, of course, because right now they're testing and, knock on wood, so far since we've come back from the pause, we've only had a few games postponed. I'm not going to say at all that I think we're going to get through the rest of the schedule unscathed. I think there'll be some games moved around. I wouldn't be shocked if we play until May 1st in the new season. We talked with John Walton, of course. He kind of concurs with that. He understands that there's a chance that the Stanley Cup may be awarded near July once again or late June. And you hope it doesn't go too far because we want to have a quote unquote normal off season, but it's really hard to think that right now, just by the way things are shaping up. I know health officials and around, at least here in the United States, they've been saying that the peak for this Omicron variant is supposed to be coming by the end of this month or early February. Let's hope so, because I don't know whatever the heck normal is. There might be another variant that comes around next season, but at this point, it's like, let's just get through this year and then we'll reassess in the summer, of course. I know, because obviously you guys have seen the waves. It's when people start going back inside, the cases come back up, it gets cold outside and whatnot. And then all of a sudden it gets warm. People go outside more often. They're a lot more spread out, it seems like, and the cases come back down, and so on and so forth. It's a nice little roller coaster. Unfortunately, Six Flags is not really condoning this kind of society that we see with this COVID, the multiple COVID variants that are making their way around the world, for that matter. So, and the nice part is, like I said, the February 17th game against the Philly Flyers is one of the last few games before the break because they play the 17th, and then they don't play until the 24th against the Rangers. So the Caps do have a week off shortly after Valentine's Day before the next game, which is nice because I think they realize, the league does say, you know what, we got to try to find a way, even though we want to get this season done as fast as possible or as soon as possible, that the safety of the players needs to be confirmed here. So giving a lot of these teams a week off, I know some, especially the Canadian teams, the schedule is a little bit tighter than the Caps are. But given the fact that, we expected to see some games, so seeing some games played with only nights off in between them, not too shocking at all. So, but it's going to be a tough grind here. We knew it was going to be a tough grind when we saw our first series of postponements and having teams have games that are being canceled right away and having to shut down operations. Like, for that matter, let's see if I can give you an idea here. Let's see. Let's quickly, where's that over? Where is it? There it is. And NHL announced extensive schedule, preseason schedule, regular season schedule. Each team's remaining schedule. Here we go. So let's see here. Wow, that's a lot of teams. That's just the revised schedule. I unfortunately, it doesn't say which team is which. Change to each team's schedule. Here we go. All right, so here we go. Let's see who gets the most games here. Well, the Boston Bruins certainly have a lot. They play the February 8th, 10th, 12th, 15th, 17th, 19th, 21st. Those games were moved. There's also a game added to March, as well as moved to April as well. They had 9 games added. Who had the most here? That's 9. Let's see. Is that 10, 3, 6, 10 for Columbus. They're playing all the way. So instead of the Caps having a week off, of course, the Blue Jackets play all the way through until what was going to be the end of the Olympic break. They have games including the 20th and 22nd. And of course, like I said, there were games flipped around as well with the Washington Capitals in there, including that game again February 8th. Dallas has 5. That's 8 for Detroit. Not too shocking. Edmonton, 1, 2, 3, 4, 9. Only 9 for Edmonton, which is kind of shocking. So they also, it looks like they will have a few days off before the original return date. The Montreal, holy moly, Montreal, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games had to be changed for Montreal. And a lot of them are home games. In fact, of those 12 games, 8 of those are 9 of those, are home games that were originally moved around. And so they pretty much play right through the break, including they also have a couple back-to-backs in there as well. So if the season's not tough enough for the Canadians, boy, that can be bad. Holy moly, the Islanders. Hello, New York. Because, of course, remember, the Islanders were one of those teams that had to take a week-long pause because of their COVID issues back in November. And let's go to the games. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 games for the Islanders. And the Ottawa Senators. Holy cow. This is getting, let me make sure, because I know Toronto's not so bad. Toronto's got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 for Toronto. Now, they're still playing a lot of games in front of no fans because of TV deals and TV rights. The Senators, though, ready for this one, kids. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 games changed. Let me count again. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yep, that's 15. I just had to make sure I wasn't going crazy. 15 games for the Ottawa Senators. Locked On Sens is going to have a miserable February if they want to try to keep up with a couple of their guys, former Senators playing overseas in Beijing for the Olympics, because there's a lot of former NHLers involved in it. So I can tell you right now, once again, the Senators have a tough time because of all their games that were moved. They have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 home games that had to be moved during this time as well. So 9 of 15. And boy, unfortunately, the teams with the most movement of their schedule are probably 2 of the worst teams in the NHL. Because Arizona, of course, because, United States, they don't have to really postpone games because, protocols and all aren't really much of a big thing down here in the States. And the Arizona Coyotes only had to move 6 games around. So, boy, tough for Canadians. I'm surprised, like I said, that Vancouver, as far as we know, Vancouver only had Vancouver didn't have many at all. Vancouver only had 3 7 games. Winnipeg had 9 games, had to be moved around. So a lot of movement, a lot of games being played in February. So we're going to have to double time here. We're going to have to do NHL and Olympics. So it's going to be a lot of not sleeping. Well, actually, if you plan it right, if you sleep during the day from like 6 in the morning, and if you pretty much pull a third shift kind of setup, sleep till 6 in the morning, or if you get 8 a.m. and maybe sleep till about 7 o'clock, 7:30, maybe miss the first period, wake up right away, and boom, you get right up, you watch that game, then you go right into Olympic coverage, because I think the first game every single night, both the men's and women's tournaments play at like 11:30 at night here at least in the Eastern time zone. So once again, I look at all you people that live on the West Coast, and I can tell you, quit complaining. You live in just fine territories. I know earthquakes are over there and volcanoes and whatnot. And listen, I'm sorry. Now, obviously, wildfires are bad too, but I'm just saying right now, in terms of watching sports and enjoying sports, no reason to complain whatsoever. Continuing, and that's reason number 35 on why you can't complain about living out west when you can watch games throughout the entire day and go to bed at a decent, reasonable hour. So that is it, though, for this edition of Locked On Capitals. We'll be back tomorrow, of course, to recap the game against the Boston Bruins, how the Caps did, and we'll look ahead to their weekend game as well against the Ottawa Senators. Be sure to follow us at Locked On Caps, guys, on Twitter. Follow me, Tyler Kuehl, the insider of the insiders, at TJKU29, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I know I've been off TikTok for a minute, at least I'm posting-wise. I'm going to try to get something going here soon because you know what? They're kind of fun. They drain a lot of my phone battery, but that's okay. That's why you have chargers, right, kids? Exactly. So we will be back tomorrow. So thank you all very much for watching and listening to another episode of Locked On Capitals. We'll see you tomorrow.